Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic, and this is episode 1 of the 10 days, 10 videos, 10 topics, okay? And we're going to be talking about the fire of the Sacred Heart in this video, okay? Now, for anybody that's been doing session work with me, will understand that we use that term Sacred Heart very often, okay, and we use it a lot, establishing connection back. And what I'm finding more and more of is that a lot of our problems are through disconnection at a consciousness level. And I often get this being channeled through is that we need to heal the consciousness before we can heal our physical existence, okay, if we can even call it that. And we're going to talk about that in another day. But let's get on to the fire of the Sacred Heart and why I've called it that, okay? Now, let's talk about what the Sacred Heart is to start off with. Now, the Sacred Heart is the energy, okay? It's where your consciousness needs to reside. It's the energy that goes into manifesting your physical heart, okay? Now, everything in this reality that we can see with our eyes as what we can kind of feel and touch in the physical is connected to a consciousness. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be here. Okay, so our physical heart is the physical manifestation of this energy we're going to talk about in this video called the Sacred Heart. So it obviously sits behind that physical heart. Now, the physical heart is an organ that has a beat, a rate and a rhythm to it, and that's because of that vortexing energy that the Sacred Heart brings through. Okay, so one thing about the heart is that we are reincarnated through the heart, okay, and through this space which we call the Sacred Heart, okay, and I guess that's why we give it the word the fire, okay, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, we're going to get to that. But about the Sacred Heart, okay, is labeling that vortexing geometry energy through, okay? And when we look at energy work, and you'll hear this from so many other energy practitioners, the key is flow of energy, okay? When we have a obstruction of that flow of energy, then we get into problems, because if we've got an obstruction or a ceasing of flow of energy, then what we find in the physical reality is that we start to break down, okay? And what happens is there's degeneration at a physical level. And when we look at all the health problems we see out there, that's what they call them. It's a degenerative problem, right? So that all originates at the consciousness level, at the energetic level, okay? And the flow of that energy coming through the Sacred Heart will only occur when your consciousness resides in that space in the heart instead of the mind, okay? Now, the Sacred Heart is also one end of a gateway, okay? We can use a number of words in regards. We can call it a portal, a gateway, a stargate, a wormhole. There's a number of ways that we can describe this. And usually with a gateway, wormhole, etc., there are two ends to it. And one end of it sits right behind that physical heart, okay? Now, the other end of it is source, okay? And that's where your energy originates from. That's your origin, okay? Because we have an energy that originates at source, but then is kind of birthed into this physical experience, the Sacred Heart obviously is this end, because we're being birthed through that Sacred Heart, one end of a gateway, into this physical reality, okay, as the human, okay? So that's enough about the Sacred Heart, okay? Let's look at the fire of the Sacred Heart. Why fire? Why don't I say water or some other element? Why fire? And that's because the color or the light that is in our Sacred Heart is an orangey yellow light, okay? It's the fire. It's symbolic of the fire. And another thing, as I've said, we are reincarnated through the heart. Okay, we are birthed through there into this reality. So the symbolism of rising like the phoenix from the flames is symbolic for reincarnation. Okay, so it's our fire that resides in that sacred heart place. Also symbolic about that fire for life too. Okay, and this is where I come into a lot of our problems because of disconnection to the sacred heart. And when we disconnect from the sacred heart, we douse out the fire of our will to live and want to live and enjoy life. Okay? And that happens when our consciousness resides in the mind and reality takes over your focus and your awareness. Because when we don't have awareness of self, we don't have consciousness. Okay? It douses out that fire that we have residing in that sacred heart place. And that, not only does it douse out the fire and we get this disconnection problem, that manifests into so many conditions and illnesses. You think of every single one of them, okay? Whether it's a mental illness, like depression, or whether that's heart disease. And when we look at heart disease, again, as a physical manifestation of that energy flow that comes from the sacred heart, if we don't have that flow, remember it's only open if our consciousness resides there. If it's up here, then that gets shut off. That vortex flow, we get deficient. We become deficient of the geometry of flow, and that's a vortex through the blood. Okay? Because blood is our waterways of our body. And we can be symbolic about water in the way that we see water flow in nature too. Okay? It's clean, it's highly energetic, structured when it's flowing. But when water is not flowing, it becomes smelly, dirty, and that's what happens to our blood too. So a lot of cardiovascular system problems are caused by that flow of that energy not coming through the sacred heart because it's been closed off because of where we have our consciousness. Okay? That causes thick blood, viscosity issues with the blood, so it becomes thick. And the intelligence of the body actually increases the blood pressure to get the blood around the body so you can survive. That's an intelligence of the body. It's not a problem about the body, high blood pressure, but we need to ask why is it having to do that? And that all resides at a consciousness level at the sacred heart. You name it, high blood pressure. We get blood clots because our blood gets thick. And then we get obstruction where we get a myocardial infarction, which is called a heart attack. So, and that's just heart disease, and that's just mental illness. You name it, every condition is manifested by where we place our consciousness. And if we want to be vital, we want to be healthy, we want to be conscious, but physically healthy, we want our consciousness residing in the sacred heart place because we can keep that fire going, okay, that fire alive, okay? Now, as I said, we're birthed or reincarnated through the sacred heart. But that same pathway, as I said, that's one end of a gateway, is our way back to our inner wisdom, our higher selves, which we can call our ascendants, and all the way back to source, where we have sovereignty and we have free will of our choice of where we want to go next in regards to our journey, whether it's within this reality or another. Okay, so this is very important information. Okay, so a lot of people talk about abundance and what they want, what's their purpose in life. Well, your purpose in life is to ascend. And for you to ascend, a big part of ascension is for your heart, for your consciousness to reside in the space, the sacred heart space. Because then you connect with that channel, that gateway that goes all the way back to your true self, which we call source. And when you go back to your true self and you connect to that inner wisdom, then you are passionate. You find exactly what your purpose is to do here. And you find something that you live to do and can't wait to do and get out of bed every day to do. The passion in life, which is that burning fire in your sacred heart. Okay? Now, another thing about the sacred heart, which we're going to talk about, is hell. Okay, so we hear about heaven and hell. And again, everything in this reality is symbolic. Okay, if you can look at life as being symbolic, then you'll go a long way in understanding what this reality is all about, why you're here, all the big questions you want answered. Now, the hell, and again, it's symbolic of flames, isn't it? Hell, right? Is happens in that same gateway, okay? Because this gateway is vital to us, okay? If we can understand the Sacred Heart is one end of a gateway, all the way back to source, and it happens right here, then you can figure out a hell of a lot, believe me. Now, hell and the soul trap, where we get reincarnated against our free will back into this reality, with a lot of our memories being blocked from us, where we can't figure out what we did in our last lifetime. Why are we back here again? You have to start from scratch to figure out, why am I here? What do I need to do? Okay. All happens within this gateway, within the Sacred Heart. Now, what happened was, there's a pathway, as I say. One gateway enters the Sacred Heart here, going all the way back to source. But what happens is, there was a consciousness that rerouted or rerouted that gateway. So you never got back to source, where you got your free will, your sovereignty to choose what you want to do again in your next lifetime. Where they controlled your recycled or reincarnation. Where you were recycled against your free will. Okay? And it all happened in this space here. Hence the symbolism of fire. Okay? This whole phoenix of the flame, so we reincarnate, and this space here. Obviously, we do not want to be part of the soul trap, okay, which is called hell, okay? We want to go back to source. And this is what I'm doing for clients every day, and this is an emphasis that we place, not only on the bigger picture of ascension, but just resolving your health problems, these physical manifestations that originate in this space. Okay, now, okay, so as I say, the difference was we never got back to source, okay? We went rerouted, okay, what they called the soul trap, okay? So we were controlled, okay? We were controlled. Now, we've talked about hell, okay, and how it connects with the Sacred Heart and, the fire of the Sacred Heart and this orange and yellow light and color. Well, the other end of hell is heaven, right? And heaven is symbolic of going back to source. Okay, so that's the difference. So essentially, I guess if you looked at heaven and hell, heaven is you're in control of your reality and your sovereignty, your free will. Hell, that was taken away from you. Okay. Now, quite often this can mirror our perception in this reality, okay? Because once we realize that we create our reality, we feel more freedom. But if we feel like it's up to our governments and those people that control this world, and we are just one of the rest of the herd, we don't feel freedom, do we? Okay? The whole thing about ascension, and where the word love comes from, because we're talking about heart here, aren't we? Okay? The energy that sustains us is to feel at ease. And it's not about feeling at ease about our environment, it's about feeling at ease about ourself. And that's why we bring our awareness and focus back to ourselves, not out there, because the mind will take your awareness away from you. And when you don't have awareness of self, you don't have consciousness. So the whole idea of a collective consciousness is a myth, because you cannot have a collective consciousness. You only have consciousness when you have awareness back on self. Okay? And your creative capability is here in that sacred heart space. So when you bring your awareness and your focus back into the now, in the present moment, what's in front of your nose, you feel more free, you feel more at ease, and you know you're in a place where you can be creative. Okay? We lose our creative capability when we look at the past and we look too far in the future. Okay? Because when we go too far in the future, when we go into the past, we become mind-orientated instead of heart-centered, okay, which is all to do with the sacred heart. Okay? Another thing that came up in regards to hell and the underworld is the number 666. And we've got a video coming up, part of this series, about numerology of ascension. So we're not going to get into it a great deal, but I'm going to talk about it because it does connect to hell here and connect to, more importantly, this gateway, which one end of it is the sacred heart. Now, 666 is not symbolic of the underworld or hell specifically, okay? It's symbolic for a gateway, because the number 6 is the numerology for consciousness. Where do we have true consciousness? At the opening of a gateway, sacred heart residing behind the human physical heart. Okay? So you can see how this all the dots can come and connect up here. Okay? Now, when we have 3 6s, right? So 666, that is a gateway for consciousness. Okay? Why it got connected with hell, as I said, in the underworld, is because that gateway, which is our way out of here, and our way out of here is restoring true perception of reality out from the birthing of this gateway, but also being connected to our ascendants, which are our higher selves, along this gateway, all the way back to source. Okay? Is that 666, this gateway was used to be rerouted in what is called hell, the soul trap. Okay, so you can see how it's all relevant. Okay? But 666 is a gateway. It's not just hell, it's a gateway. More importantly, it's a gateway. Is it a bad gateway? No, not necessarily. Okay. Now, another thing we're going to talk about before we finish the video in regards to episode 1, in regards to the sacred heart, is that this is the same beneficial light, the orange and yellow light, that people get from sun gazing. Now, a lot of things within this reality, including the sun itself, when we see it in the sky, that's symbolic of source. Okay, and I see that sun with my eyes. I don't see it with anybody else's. So you're playing out your own reality, and where you're looking back at source again, back at your own source. That sacred heart, right, is the way towards it. Okay. Now, the thing about sun gazing is the time of day when we do sun gazing is the first 2 discs as the sun's rising, and the last couple of discs when the sun is setting. Now, any other time, we are told not to look at the sun, and that's for good reason. We will damage our eyes because of the blue light that the sun is giving off. This is the same blue light that we get from all these screen devices that we're looking at every day. And we're going to talk about that again in another episode. We're talking about blue blocking technology. But let's get back to sun gazing. Now, what you will notice with sun gazing, when you look at the sun, when you can look at it, is that we can look at it because all the blue light's been removed from the sun. And all of a sudden, we've just got that orange, it's an orangey color, right, the sun, all of a sudden. Now, that's that same orange and yellow light that we calibrate ourselves, that when we actually reside within the sacred heart, as I say, it's an orange and yellow light. And what people do say about the benefits of sun gazing is it recalibrates them. Okay? And what I do say about the sacred heart is, and I've got another video on my YouTube channel, please check it out, how you can ground, that's what it's called, to ground yourself or earth yourself, is that when our consciousness resides in the sacred heart area, where we're more in the now and in the present moment, we feel more grounded. Okay? So when we do sun gazing and we're looking with our eyes, our periscopes of our nervous system, straight at the sun at that time of day, those last couple of discs at the end of the day, or the couple of discs when the sun is rising, where it's safe to look at the sun because all the blue light's gone, not there. It's that orangey yellow light. It recalibrates us and we feel more grounded. People that cross so many time zones with a lot of traveling, so many people say about when I do sun gazing, it removes the jet lag, especially when you incorporate it with also going barefoot on the earth. It's that grounding energy. Okay, and that grounding energy makes you feel at home because your home is source. And where is the way to get to source? Through the heart, through that gateway, which the end of that gateway is the sacred heart on this end. Okay? So many beneficial things, okay? And this is a very important aspect of the energy healing we do here at Truly Holistic, is making sure you are connected into that sacred heart space, okay? And if you want to evolve, not only with consciousness, as I say, we need to heal our consciousness first before we heal the physical body, because the consciousness gives you more knowing and more understanding of reality, where you can then have abundance and create the reality that you want, because you are the power, you are the creator, okay? And therefore, you can do anything, you can reverse any illness you ever want, but it has to happen with bringing your consciousness into the sacred heart and getting it away from the mind, okay? So other than that, I think we'll finish it there. I hope you've really enjoyed episode 1 of this 10 video series. And again, hey, you need to remember there's a competition here. So comment below, okay, with your answers, and then you go into a draw to win 140 New Zealand dollars worth of energy tools. How cool is that? Okay, you're getting wisdom, you're getting the empowerment now, and you're going to also get a chance to have the energy tools. That's going to be like training wheels along the way to help you with this process and this journey. Okay, so I hope you've really enjoyed this video. Until next time,